Amen. You may be seated. We're continuing today in our series, Kingdom Culture, where we're exploring a reality that can be hard for us to grasp sometimes. You know, John the Baptist prepared the way for Jesus and declared Jesus' arrival. And when Jesus comes, Jesus said, "I'm bringing a kingdom with me." And throughout his ministry, Jesus had a lot to say about his kingdom. And since it's his kingdom, the question for us is, what is it like to live there? What does it mean to be part of the kingdom? What does it mean for the way we live? What does it mean for the way we think about how to even enter the kingdom? What does it mean to share the kingdom with others? And again, since it's Jesus' kingdom, we want to turn to him and take his word for it and let him be the authority on his kingdom's culture, on what's valuable and the way it's meant to be lived out. And we're using that. There's a lot of passages we could have looked at. We're using the Beatitudes, the intro to the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus would have shared many times because he really wanted it to be clear with people. Here's what I think about my kingdom. As we did last week, if you would like, we're going to have the Beatitudes on the screen. Let's read them all together before we dive in today. So if you'll read with me. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Before we dive in today, I wanted to try something a little funky, which I feel like I have the freedom to do as the youth pastor, all right? We're taking a little detour. I've been working with my friend Terrell, all right? Terrell, you recognize him. He's up here on piano as always. But we've been working on a few songs. We put in a lot of effort. Maybe I think we hit 60 hours of practice this last week.
Pretty close.
I think we're pretty close to 60 hours of practice, all right? And it's really more on him, all right? And so I have a few songs, and by I mean him. He's got a few songs prepared for you, and so we're just going to work our way through them. So Tara, if you get a little loose, all right? And then whenever you're ready, hit song number 1. And I just invite you, just steep in this moment. All right, song number 1. Here we go. Nope. So I don't know. That didn't come up at all in our 60 hours of practice. That didn't happen before. I know we're trying something. I know. Terrell, I'm doing something. All right. That's okay. Hey, you know what? We practiced 3 songs for a reason. Song number 2. All right, Terrell, I think this is it. I think this is the one.
Sweet nostalgic.
Here we go. It's a great song. No. Are we feeling okay? Are we doing okay this morning?
Well,
I know music's hard. Music's hard. All right, hey, they say third time's the charm. All right, that's why we got 3 songs. All right, this is the one. I really feel it. I really believe it. Song number 3, Terrell. Here we go. No, tech booth, that's enough. That's enough from Terrell. We were so close. That's all right. You know what? It was my mistake, 61 hours. We should have done 61 hours of practice. I know, that one extra hour. That's all right, Tara, you can find your seat. I appreciate it. All right, a round of applause for my friend Tara. All right, this is probably the part where you're kind of wondering, boy, I wish they'd tell us which pastor's preaching so I know whether to come or not. But, of course, obviously, we do this for a reason, all right? We aren't just goofing around for no purpose. I want to invite you to think about something. Those songs that he was playing, maybe you recognize some of them. Maybe they were all new to you. But that you all recognize they didn't end the way they were supposed to. Something went off the rails. Like he got into it. Your mind subconsciously picked up on what key we were in and the rhythm. Even if you don't know what I mean by key, or if you don't know rhythm at all, you kind of got into the groove of the music, and then you recognized when it kind of broke, when it went off the rails, when the ending wasn't really satisfying, because it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And it didn't matter that you may know a lot of music theory, may know nothing about dissonance, resolving melodies, chord progression, but you recognized when something was off. And I really think life is this way. I don't know how many of you would consider yourself philosophers or deep theologians. I'm sure I could start throwing out words that you'd never heard of, and you wouldn't know how to talk about your life in this super high-level academic way. But the fact is, even if you don't have the words to describe it, you recognize when something's off in your life, when something's not really satisfying. When you look at your life and go, that it's not really fulfilling. I thought my life was supposed to be full, and we're making my way through the song, so to speak, and we've kind of gone off the rails, and I don't know what to do with it. But the fact is, when we get to that point, we try and fix it, because no one wants to stay in that moment. No one wants to stay in the place in their life where they're going, man, this is unsatisfying, but I'll just let it be. We try and fix it, and we try and resolve it. And that's what Jesus touches on in today's beatitude. This human instinct, this drive to want to be satisfied. In this beatitude, Matthew 5:6, he says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." This word filled, in another point, is translated satisfied. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, for they will be satisfied. And Jesus is touching on something really human, really common, really universal. He's saying you want to be satisfied and you want to be filled. And you look at your life and there's a few options before you, but most people, they get lost because we aren't sure how to be filled. And so today I'm going to work through, I think really if we go to the broadest level, I think there's three ways that we try and accomplish this. Three ways in which we try and get to that place where we can be satisfied, where we can be full. So the first path, the path that many choose, and this may sound familiar to you if you look back at some point earlier in your life. Some of you, if you really take in the moment and you're real with yourself, you may see that this is where you're at right now. But the first path we can choose is that, the path to satisfaction is by filling myself with worldly goods. If I want to be satisfied, if I want to be full, I have all these voices that seem to tell me, fill my life with all these good things. And you'll get there, and you'll be happy, blessed. That's how that word can be translated, happy. And so they say, you got to do this, fill your life with this, fill your life with that. You'll be satisfied, you'll be happy. You'll be able to look at your life and say, I'm full. And so people will pursue things, and this shows up in a lot of different ways. Some people look at power. And they go, if I can just get enough power, I can be satisfied. That's what will satisfy me. I don't like feeling out of control. I don't like not having my hand on the wheel. So I'm going to work my life in such a way that I'm going to pursue power. And if I can just, there's some way down the road, if I can just get there, man, I'll be satisfied. Some people pursue influence. I see those a lot with the birth of the influencer movements online. And I really sense, there's a lot of reasons I think people do this, but one of the ones that I get a sense of is just this same desire for satisfaction. And man, I don't want my life to feel meaningless. I don't want people to forget about me. I want to leave a massive legacy for millennia. So I'm going to influence as many people as I can. And I just know, if I can go far enough down that path, if I can influence enough people, I will eventually get there. I will eventually feel full and be satisfied. Another way this could show up is relationships. And the relationships can show up in different ways, but if you go, man, I hate being lonely, my life feels unsatisfied, maybe that's what's missing, so I'm gonna try and fill my life with all kinds of relationships. And they could be romantic partnerships, but it could also just be friendships and work relationships and just all manner of things. I want to connect with everybody. I want to network with everybody. The larger I can spread my social web, the more people I have in my life who know me and I'm connected to. Man, if I can just go far enough down that path, I'll eventually feel full and I'll be satisfied. There's so many other examples of things I could give, of money, status, fame, renown, even something I've had to be careful in my own life, wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, academic success. Man, if I can just go far enough down this path, satisfaction's got to be there somewhere. I've got to get there sometime. But maybe you might see where this is going. Maybe you've felt this in your own life. Maybe you've seen this in the life of somebody else. You've watched someone else walk down that path, and you've seen it. And you've wanted to beg them to turn around because you know that if you choose that path, if I think that I will be satisfied, if I will be filled by filling myself with worldly goods, the problem is enough is never enough. No one ever pursued power. And you know this. You can name any politician. You look at them. No one ever went, wow, I'm stuffed with power. Actually, I've had maybe too much power. No, thank you. I'm cutting off. That's enough for me. I'm very satisfied with my power. Thank you. No influencer ever influenced their 1,000th, their millionth, their 10 millionth person and went, that's it. I'm satisfied. I'm full. I've influenced everyone that I wanted to. No more for me. And we can name many of these things. No one has ever gotten to the point where they went down that path far enough and found the satisfaction they wanted. It's not even an unending path. It's really a loop. We'll go in circles. It's never done. You find yourself right back at the beginning, always unsatisfied and never full. The example of this I see is in the story of the prodigal son. You might know that story. There's a wealthy man who has a couple sons, and the younger son is not satisfied with his life. He feels unfulfilled. And so he says, well, the solution to being unfilled is to fill myself. I'm going to fill myself with worldly goods. So I'm going to take an early inheritance, thank you very much, and I'm going to do as much as I can and live however I can to fill myself with things that I think will satisfy me. And if you know his story, circumstances don't work that way because life doesn't work that way. And he finds himself in his point where he's working next to pigs and he's looking at their food. And he's hungering after their food and going, man, if I could even eat that. See, he went down this path and thought, man, if I go far enough, I'll be satisfied. And in filling himself, he ended up emptier than he'd ever been. Now, for many of us, I think many of you might see that in your life, and maybe it's now, but maybe it was in the past. It might have been a point in your life before you encountered Jesus and things changed. And so you might be going, I don't know if that's me right now. But I think there's another path that I see a lot of believers choose, genuine believers, strong people of faith. It's so easy for our Christian life to become discombobulated, and we get things turned around, and we get dizzy. And we also want to live satisfying lives as believers. And we see path one. We see the path of worldly goods, and we go, no, I have the eyes to see. I've learned enough. I've matured enough to know that will not do it for me. And so the path to satisfaction is actually righteousness. My righteousness. My works. See, I think a lot of people, a lot of Christians, they look at their life and they think, man, I want to be satisfied. The Christian life should be full. And the path to do that is for me to just do and do and do as much as possible. And eventually, I can go far enough down that path where I'll be satisfied. And so we think, man, I'm going to go to as much church as I can. I'm going to go to as many Bible studies as I can. I'm going to have as many accountability partners as I can. I'm going to read my Bible as much as I can. I'm going to pray as much as I can. I'm going to give as much as I can. I'm going to help the needy as much as I can. I'm going to visit the sick as much as I can. I'm going to attend to the orphan and the widows as much as I can. When I go to church, I'll sing as much as I can, and I'll pray as much as I can, and I'll worship as much as I can. And at some point down that path, surely, I'll be full, and I'll be satisfied. But I think some of you might know where that path goes. Some of you maybe have walked down that path long enough to realize, just like path one, it's just a loop. The path of filling myself, the path of righteousness, the path of self-righteousness is a loop where enough is never enough. I never get to the point where I feel like I've read my Bible enough. And I never get to the point where I feel like I've prayed enough. I never get to the point where I feel like I've been to church enough. I never get to the point where I feel like I've confessed my sin enough. I never get to the point where I feel like I've sung to God enough. And on and on and on. And we get dizzy, and we deceive ourselves. And we walk down a path that is just as unsatisfying. I think of Paul. Paul knew this. Romans chapter 7. Paul cared a lot about living righteously. Righteousness in this sense being doing good works. Righteousness in this sense being living with appropriate relationship to creation, living with appropriate relationship to God's, to humanity, to people created in God's image, and living in right relationship with my God through obedience to the law. Paul was really in tune with that. Paul walked down that path for a long time, and he really genuinely believed it would be satisfying. There's a couple things he says. First, Romans 7, starting in verse 9. Once I was alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin sprang to life, and I died. I found that the very commandment that was intended to bring life actually brought death. For sin, seizing the opportunity afforded by the commandment, deceived me, and through the commandment, put me to death. This isn't Paul talking smack about the law. Paul will follow to talk about how good and holy the law is because it comes from God. But Paul's saying, look, I've walked down that path. I've tried to find satisfaction in my fulfillment as a good follower of God, as a proper Orthodox Jew. I've tried to live my life as well as I can. And the farther I go, the more I encountered the reality that my obedience was killing me. I experienced death. It was unsatisfying. I couldn't find fulfillment in it because enough was never enough. Paul never found the end of good works. So if we stopped there, we would be in a very sorry state. We'd be in trouble. You'll be going, okay, I got path 1 and path 2, and they're both loops, and they're not satisfying. They don't actually fulfill me. I will just end up emptier than before. So what then? Well, that's where Jesus' incredible wisdom comes in. It's why he includes this in his Beatitudes. He says, in my kingdom, there's a third option. When you come into my kingdom, there's another choice for you. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And when he's talking about righteousness, he talks about the righteousness that comes by faith. He talks about a righteousness that is not based on our efforts to prove ourselves. Because when we want to prove ourselves, the only thing we can prove is self-righteousness. And Jesus is going, no. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for my righteousness. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for what I have to offer. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, who come empty-handed. Blessed are those who say, path 1 is not going to do it for me. Blessed are those who say, path 2 is not going to do it for me. Blessed are those who come to God hungry and thirsty, saying, God, where else can we go except to you? Because it's the only path left for me to be satisfied. Paul acknowledges this in his letter to the Philippians. Paul says, if someone else thinks, starting in verse 4, if someone else thinks they have reasons to put confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day, of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, in regard to the law, a Pharisee. As for zeal, persecuting the church, which we know is a bad thing, but he's saying, look, you can accuse me of a lot of things, but you can't accuse me of is being half-hearted. When I walked down path 2, I really meant it. I really believed that would satisfy me. I genuinely bought it. As for righteousness based on the law, faultless. But whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which is through faith in Christ, the righteousness that comes from God on the basis of faith. Christ's righteousness. Theologians from this point on would spend every waking moment proclaiming to the church, it's not your righteousness to hunger and thirst after. It won't satisfy. Enough will not be enough. But come to Jesus. Go to his righteousness. When Jesus says hunger and thirst for righteousness, he says hunger and thirst for me. I satisfy. I fill. It's echoed in his encounter with the woman at the well. John chapter 4. He talks to this woman who's been coming to the well. John 4, verse 13, Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water, the well, will be thirsty again. Woman, you came yesterday, and surprise, surprise, you're thirsty again today. And I bet it's a good guess, you'll be here tomorrow because you'll be thirsty again. And the day after, you'll be thirsty again. This well right here, the satisfaction is so fleeting, it's so momentary. You're going to come back to this continually. Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. Jesus says, hunger and thirst for me. Hunger and thirst for my righteousness. Hunger and thirst for what I have to offer. Hunger and thirst for what I've done for you. Hunger and thirst for the cross. Hunger and thirst for my perfection. Hunger and thirst for the empty tomb. Hunger and thirst for an ascended, risen King. Hunger and thirst for that. When you drink that water, you will never be thirsty again. You need only come once, and the well of water moves within you and produces life and fullness and satisfaction perpetually. You will be filled. Jesus hides the answer even just in the grammar. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, for they will be filled. Passive. See, the similarity between past 1 and 2, I fill myself with worldly goods. I fill myself with my own works, my own self-righteousness. It's both me. I do the filling. I do the filling, and I bring and I bring and I bring, and I hope I can fill myself. And Jesus says, no. Embrace the paradox. You want to be filled? Let yourself be hungry and thirsty. Come with open arms. Come with empty arms. Don't fill yourself. That's the other paths, and they go nowhere. The path to being filled is emptying. Be hungry. Be thirsty. And the paradox is, in being hungry and thirsty for righteousness, you end up being filled by someone outside of you. Christ comes, and he satisfies, and he fills. And he completes all that needs to be completed. As we close, I invite the worship team to come back up. I really want you guys to sit with that. Examine those three paths. And I say this to the youth a lot. I use this language. Just be real with yourself for a moment. All right? I'm not going to go around. I'm not going to bring a mic around, force you to answer to everyone. But in a moment, you need to be real with yourself and God. And just look at your life and go, have I been trying to fill myself with one of the other paths? Did I buy into the lie that there's satisfaction to be found somewhere else? And maybe I need to be brought back to the path of the kingdom. Maybe I need to let this kingdom culture sink in a little deeper. Maybe I need to realize that, no, it's Christ's righteousness. It's everything he is, and it's everything he's done, and it's everything he will do. That will satisfy me. Because that path goes somewhere. That path leads somewhere. I want you to think about the illustration we opened with. Imagine I took this keyboard, and one by one I just came and I put it in your lap. And I said, those songs at the beginning, they were broken, they were unsatisfying, they were unfulfilling. They didn't end the way they were supposed to. And I gave you the keyboard and I said, so fix it. Make the song right. Play it the right way. Make it satisfying. You could hammer at the keys all you'd like, and you won't be able to do it. And that's what the first paths are like. We look at our life and it's unsatisfying, and we hammer at the keys. And we think if I just play long enough, I'll eventually just hit the right note. And Jesus says, if you need to fix the song, find the one who wrote it. If you want a satisfying life, find the one who wrote it. If you want a fulfilled life, if you want to feel full, find the one who authored your life. And go to him, and you will be filled. As you hear this song, I invite you to pray through that. Meditate on that. Be hungry and be thirsty, and you'll be filled.